There's a lot of comic news this month, so let's jump right into it. A Hellboy remake is on its way. We get a glimpse behind the curtain here. The Crooked Man is what we are adapting. Millennium Media is beginning filming in March. It's listed as the first in a series of films diverging from the Mike Mignola stories we've already seen in the past with the Hellboy films. Filming start later this year, this month actually, in Bulgaria. Although the film will be set in Northern America. The actual Crooked Man comic is a Mignola classic set in the 50s in the Appalachian Mountains with plenty of witchcraft and, devilry. And it basically follows Hellboy and a drifter in this backwater town looking for a devil collecting souls that lumbers around with a broken neck. It's a great read. It's definitely a Hellboy, one of the best Hellboy stories, honestly. Millennium is also dropping a fourth Expendables and just wrapped filming on the Red Sony project, also dropping this year. We could see Hellboy, I think, landing around the holiday season or possibly early 2024. Overall, I'm very curious to see what Brian Taylor and Millennium pull off with this Hellboy film. This is one I'm more excited for in the Hellboy catalog. And hopefully it's just something completely new. It's going to be a challenge. It's always going to be compared to Guillermo del Toro's take. But I definitely think this could be a very entertaining film, nonetheless. Ultimate Comics is making its comeback. Brian Hitch and Jonathan Hickman are reuniting for the Ultimate Invasion, announced in an Entertainment Weekly article. This is the first of 4 issues so far that will debut in June. And it seems Franklin and Malcolm Mann hadn't remade Ultimate Universe when they're going around. And, after the incursions obliterated the universe. But we do know the maker is set on doing exactly that. Miles is, of course, involved. And I wonder if that's why the maker landed in Kate's Venom run. Earlier, 2019, 2020-ish. Maybe a little bit later than that. I don't know. My whole timeline's a little bit off in that COVID era. It's also really cool to see that the Ultimate Fantasy 4 #1 is getting its due, since I kind of pointed that out back in the first episode of Spec Talk. I think that's a great book to keep an eye out for, considering when it becomes the maker is Ultimate Fallout 4, which is already a ridiculous book. The Illuminati is also set to return, as Hickman loves throwing in characters he's created and other things he's made in the past. But I will say I'm excited to see Earth 1610 return, and it sounds like Hickman and Hitch have big plans for this universe, so it's definitely one worth throwing on your pull list. Multiple Lord of the Rings projects are in the works. WB and New Line Cinema just struck a multi-year deal with a third company from Sweden to make multiple pictures adapting Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films. We've already seen a bunch of adaptations, and Amazon had just done a show, I believe, last year or the year before, and it seems Amazon still holds the television rights, but time will tell if that pans out to be true. Warner Brothers and New Line definitely had big plans for the franchise. They just showed that a bunch of money, and it'll be very cool to see this franchise return to the big screen, although I don't know how much story is really left. I mean, there's a lot to adapt, but I don't know where we could go after where the films left off. Anyway, thanks to the success of shows like Chucky, Bates Motel, and Hannibal, we will see a lot more major horror icons get the TV treatment. The It prequel series, Welcome to Derry, is back on track with HBO Max, and Andy Muschietti, I believe is how you pronounce his name, is directing. The show will lead up to the events of 2017, the remake, and will predate the Losers Club coming together. They are currently in the scripting phase, and not much is known about the project. But the last 2 films were very successful regardless of my feelings about them. So I have no doubt that this show will be a big hit. I'm not expecting The Last of Us, but it's definitely going to be a sizable hit. It is supposedly set in the 60s and will drive into the Killer Clown's origins. I can imagine it's going to have a lot of Stranger Things vibes here. I wonder if they will play with elements from, the expansive book, or they're doing their own thing. There's a lot in that book we've never seen hit live action, like the giant turtle, but I will say the orgy stuff can stay out of live action. But speaking of prequel series, Camp Crystal Lake is still on track to come, I believe, later this year. A24 is producing its Friday the 13th prequel series, and although the hits has some setbacks, and they've had some issues not being able to use Jason as an adult or the hockey mask in the show, I have heard some in-issue rumors that sound really, really promising. One thing I can say is it sounds like it's paced really well and has a few concepts I wasn't expecting seeing. assuming what I had heard was true. With that all really not saying much, if they stick to the script elements and, get a really good cast behind it, it could be very, very promising. It just all comes down to, how well could they stick to it. And A24 has had really, really good castings in the past. And so, honestly, I think A24 can turn this around and make a highlight for modern horror. I imagine both shows will be a lot bigger budget than Freddy's Nightmares, though. The Blue Beetle movie coming out later this year will reportedly have Victoria Cord as the main villain, who was just introduced, a brand new character in the comics. And this week, she donned a yellow Beetle suit and the Blue Beetle graduation number 4. Graduation day number 4. And the first appearance was only 2 months ago in issue 2, back in, I guess we'll get 3 months ago-ish in December. And additional rumors and supposed test footage are going around involving the film. I don't think the test footage is real. I think that's all fake. But there's some rumors that we could see a Batman cameo, some speculation. And I just have to wait and see. It's definitely a project. I'm curious to see what comes of it, as we saw the set photos, couple months, maybe even a year ago back now. I think probably about 6-7 months back. Back when I did the first episode of Spec Talk. Or Comics News, I mean. And I'll say it's definitely a film I'm more excited about coming this year. That one, and of course, Batman 3. Look very exciting. Something is Killing the Children has been re-upped for a Netflix show, and I'm surprised a lot of people didn't know this was already happening. There's really not a whole lot to say here. Sick is back on track in Netflix. There's no casting and further pre-production news that I know of as of yet, but this is definitely a book that's really been hot since it came out. It's, James Tynion's been pretty hot since Sick, and even a little bit before then, as a new writer under this new era of people working on comics, and I'm definitely curious to see what comes of it. Netflix could definitely make this into a great show. I hope it's not going to be like the stuff that we saw before with Jupiter's Legacy, and instead it's going to be a lot more promising. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Marvel went on to announce another goddamn event for their Star Wars titles, and as if we didn't spend 2 years on 3 Kira stories, events across pretty much all the titles that meant nothing and just wasted dirge. And also kind of threw Vader under the bus, having people run into his castle, steal from him, run out, with really no consequences. Whatever. Hey, regardless. Oh, and remember that Revelations one-shot they charged way too much for and didn't go anywhere? Yeah, that random robot is going to be a vocal point of this event, it sounds. And I guess the Eye of Weevish Bog, maybe. You excited? No. Guess Charles Soule doesn't care. I like Charles Soule. He had a great run in Star Wars. He really had some of the best Star Wars comics to pretty much ever come out. And I enjoy most of his writing, but the last 3 events really drug me down. And I can't say I'm excited for this one. Wow, there's a lot of other stuff here worth talking about, so I had a quick speed round and knock some of these out. Dead by Daylight is getting a comic published by Titan that looks pretty promising. The Teen Titans are the new Justice League now after Dark Crisis. Jonathan Kent is in the Injustice universe now for some reason. DC and Marvel dumped a lot of number 1s in May's solicitations. Hell to Pay is being adapted by Seth MacFarlane. The Yoda title is leading to a larger early Dooku arc that involves his origins of falling into the darker side and the steps he took to get there. And it also seems it'll involve Sifo Dyas. Since the Sinister is spiraling out of control. Red Sonja is turning 50 soon. Stephen Yeun, Walking Dead fame, signed on to a significant role in Thunderbolts. I have no idea who he's going to be, but I'm very curious to see, because I think he's a pretty good actor. Dead Boy Detectives is back on track over at Netflix now. Echo might debut in October, and Loki Season 2 got pushed back later in the year than it was before. Fan 4 is finishing casting, building their team around the Sue Storm cast. Return of the Jedi is coming back to theaters in April, which is very, very exciting. And, of course, Mando Season 3 will have begun with the first episode dropping the same day, I think, as this episode. So if you haven't watched that yet, what are you doing? Go check it out. But that's there's a whole lot of stuff to talk about this month. I left out even more stuff. But let me know, what bit of news has you excited? What are you not excited for? All down in the comments. If you have any opinions that I missed something I should have talked about, I should talk about another episode, let me know, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Follow me here on Facebook and Instagram for more daily content. Join the Facebook group Fandoms Unleashed for an inside look at Connor's comics and great daily discussions. All linked down in the description. And until next time.